What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're back today with another episode of the Yesterday's Enterprise Build Series and the 1701-C. Now, we are getting towards the end, but as we get towards the end, I realize a few things. My approach to building models has changed. I started this way back. Oh, God, this was probably started way back in January or so, and it maybe even like late December. And, one of the things that I've kind of found is that, my skills have changed, and along with my approach, specifically with painting first and then assembling. And I'm finding right now the difficulty in doing so is that I need to quickly, because I have chosen to light this model, and of course, like you want this to look good, we got a bunch of seams we got to take care of. And if man, this, like, look along here, along the back there, we got a bunch of seams we got to take care of. We need to get some putty in there. And this paint, I don't know if I'm able to replicate the colors. So, we're finding things out. This seam down here is a really messy, nasty seam. Man, I don't know. I don't know. These days, and when I say my approach has changed, likely going forward, I'm going to be assembling all of my models first before getting them assembled, getting all the lighting done, getting all of the light blocking done, getting all of the things before I paint, because it's really difficult to kind of come back now. And like with the new approach that I have, uh, we need to take care of some things. And so I don't know if I'm going to be prolonging this series or not, but what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take some putty, some plastic putty, and I'm going to come along, get in all my seams. I think I'm going to have to accept this lower seam. I'm worried about not being able to replicate the paint. And the only reason I say that is because I was spraying this with my little electric handheld compressor, and man, that thing took a lot of thinning. And so, one of those things where I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be able to replicate the paint. I still have the paint, but is it going to be the same tone? I don't know. So we're about to find out. I think I'm going to be willing to accept some bad seams. I am going to get some putty through here, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll mask off. We'll go along. But what we're going to do today is we're going to get these glued down, cinched down. We're going to get our putty along the insides, get everything light blocked. I'm going to get it hooked up to the power, take a look, see how everything looks. And then what we're going to be doing is getting the lower half of the saucer section attached, so that we can start working on getting it light blocked and get ready for the next phase, which is going to be getting all of our electronics hooked into the saucer section as we get towards the end of this model. So we're going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to go ahead and get to building, and we'll do, of course, a little voiceover here and get going. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. We will come back at the end and we'll talk. Probably even talk before the end when we're coming into installing the saucer, because I want to talk about what I want to do up here to make sure that the saucer doesn't droop in the future. So, without further ado, let's get to building, shall we? All right, so we start up here, and one of the things that I really love doing is powering up the model for the first time in a minute. And you'll see here in a second, like, my immediate joy. Like, oh yeah, no, you're right. It does look good. Now, one of the things that I'm doing here is using my camera actually as a way of detecting light leaks. Something that Todd, Marble Phoenix, taught me. Use your camera to pick up light leaks, because, of course, cameras blow out LEDs, right? And so it's going to highlight any area where your light leaks are going to be happening. And like I said, I did not plan to light this model from the beginning, and my technique has changed over time. I'm going to be assembling and then painting my models. And so, we're going to run into some of these issues with this model specifically. And, I wasn't planning for it, and so there are a lot of light leaks. And one of the things that I've discovered, and I picked this up for the Razor Crest build because there's going to be a couple spots where I need to do some putty work, so to say. I needed to find a putty that I could use that wipes clean. And the Vallejo plastic putty does that. And I'm able to control it with the little pipette here. And I've been able to get some amazing results in a lot of places, in a lot of different models. And I'm able to like put it under pressure just like this and run down a seam, and it gets exactly where I want it to go. And I'm kind of treating it as if I was doing a bit of a weld, just getting little beads run down the seams, trying to focus on getting that putty right down in there. And you don't need a lot. And any extra that you have, we'll see here coming up, you're able to just wipe off with a wet towel, wet brush. Water cleans this up, so it's not going to damage the paint on your model as long as it's cured. And it works extraordinarily well. And that's the lower section there. And then the upper section, right up to the shuttle bay. The shuttle bay definitely has a lot of light leaks that we need to work through there. So, yeah, definitely a lot of work to do on this one. But this did turn out pretty good. I was pretty pleased with the results that we wound up getting here. The lower section over here, I went a little thicker on this side because it was a much wider, thicker seam. And over here as well, I got probably a little happy with the putty, if I'm being real. And yeah, but it works so good. Like it gets right in there without any issues. And I got to say, man, like it really does a wonderful job of giving me the confidence to putty whatever I need to. Know that I have time to, it's not going to dry for a little bit, so I can use whatever tools I need to get it into wherever I need it to go. And then I just can clean off the excess with water. It's such an amazing thing. It really is. Vallejo has got good products here and there, and their plastic putty is definitely one of the good products, I have to say. Really pleased with how this turned out. Yeah, that seam down below, man. Ugh. Things that I really regret. These seams along the side. That is definitely a result of the couple of times that I had to take the pylons apart to get them repainted after the whole what was it, the uh, liquid masking tape incident before I started using the Aztek dummy, which was the impetus for the getting the Aztek dummy for sure. But it didn't turn out the way I was expecting it to. I gotta say, just looking at those Bussard collectors right now, just front on and kind of seeing them pulsing a little bit. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, it's so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, and this is also probably a result of the wires being run from the engineering section up to the nacelles as well. I've learned many lessons during this model, and I'm still remarking on how good that paint is. For as early on and as crappy as an airbrush and compressor as I had, man, that paint did turn out really good, didn't it? And we got the front sealed up. Now it's time to go ahead and start using some tools to get this cleaned up. Now, what I've done here is I was like contemplating like what am I going to do? So first up, we did get all of the light leaks taken care of, and so I have a couple of silicone brushes. The first one I grabbed happened to be the exact one that I was looking for. This one has a pencil point, and I was able to basically take it and make sure I was able to push the putty into the seams where I needed to go, and then I was able to use it to wipe off the excess. One of the things that I really enjoy about silicone brushes is nothing really sticks to it, right? And so you're able to really like get in here and you can see I'm just pushing down and pulling off the excess. And you're able to just get in there. Like, and it's soft, it's not going to hurt the model. and it works great in conjunction with the plastic putty. I am really, really pleased with how this all went. So basically what I did is I just went through and I traced. I went through each one of my lines that I needed to. I started with the most glaring of gaps, and that was with the nacelles. And I was able to also pull a little bit of that putty through, as you can see there, and extend it out into areas where I didn't initially get the putty placed. And it really did seal up well. This has been a couple of days now since I've done the work, as I'm doing the voiceover here. And I did take a look at the model, and everything does look really good. We need to do a little bit of more cleanup with some water. But overall, it did turn out really, really well. All of the seams are great. I checked for light leaks again, and we are totally good. I'm very pleased, very, very pleased with how this turned out. And then as you can see there, I'm literally almost like caulking in a way. I'm just kind of running the silicone just right down the channel, pushing the caulk into, not the caulk, pushing the putty into the seam where I need it to go, and then pulling off the excess from the outside. This was pretty cool. Like I was unsure of how I was going to handle doing this, and I'm actually pleased with the results that we wound up getting here. I really am. Now, running basically to get this clean, I have, and you should get one of these. It's one of those lab bottles for squirting water, and I always have this on my workbench. I started with using a towel and some water, and after, wow, I just let that through the edit, didn't I? Super unfocused. But with towel with some water, and I started with this, and this was just to get off a large portion of the excess putty. Now, because all of the putty had actually made its way into the seams that I needed it to, everything else was extra. We don't need it. And the beauty of putty is the plastic putty is it just comes right off with water, right up into the point where it's cured, and then it doesn't. Then it takes a little bit of water and a little bit of encouragement to get that out. But what I was finding here is that the towel wasn't really sufficing for what I needed it to do. And so what I did is I grabbed one of my first off, look at that genius move that I just did. I went during the edit, I'm like, I need to show what I just did. I literally just squirted water onto the brush over my mat, almost on top of the model, unthinking like an idiot. God. But what I did was I grabbed a weathering brush, my small weathering soft, or I guess it's hard bristle brush, and started using well, it's a hard bristle, I guess it's for dry brushing. It's a dry brush. And I added some water, and now I'm just very simply using the brush to go over the areas where I don't want the putty to be. And I gotta say, this worked really, really well. At first, I'm still like experimenting. I'm figuring things out here, right, guys? And so, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, is this gonna work? Is my pinky gonna stick up the entire time? We will find out. I just realized in the editing of this video that I do that quite a bit. And one of these live streams, I'll show you guys why. I played a lot of sports when I was a kid, and fortunately broke my pinky when I was young, and they said it wrong, and so it always sticks out very, very posh, like, so to say. God, where was I? But yeah, so I wound up using the towel here in the beginning, and then I wound up like right here. I think it's coming up. I'm like, I don't want to use the towel anymore. I'm gonna grab a larger dry brush, God, and use that to clean off the excess, which wound up working out perfectly. Once again, I don't know like what I'm doing. I'm experimenting and trying things, and I really learned a lot doing this today, like doing this specific model, doing this putty work. I really learned a lot on how to approach painting, how to take care of your model getting ready for lighting,
I had a lot of thoughts during this whole process, and so it really worked out well. And this plastic putty is just amazing stuff. It's going to be in my link tree. You guys will find that in the Amazon links that I have. Um, and it's just the Vallejo plastic putty. You can also find it at various shops, but it's kind of hard to find in stores these days, I'm finding. But here, I'm just checking for light leaks, and I am not finding any. I am very pleased with what we have done. And man, like, I think the only part that I'm a little concerned about is the lower seam. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, checking for light leaks, I'm not finding anything. Everything looks really, really good. And it's one of those things where, yeah, I am very pleased with what we have done.
All right, so that actually worked out pretty well. We're going to need to do some paint correcting here, and we're going to have to do that for the whole model. So I'm going to wait and hold off until we get all of the rest of the assembly done. And one of our last stages here for this build is going to be to go ahead and get all of our paint corrected along all of our seams. But the plastic putty works great. It gets into the seams where you want it to go, and then you're able to clean it off quickly just with some water. It very simple, easy process, and I love this stuff. So it's turned putty work into something that's a lot easier to do for me these days. Nothing against the Tamiya White or anything like that, but hey, these these old hands and their things. So I'm gonna go through and clean up, and you take a little bit of water in between each episode, so or in between episodes, and like do one of these things where you need to clean up some of our plastic putty. But yeah, so that's what it is. So we're going to go ahead and move on. And what we're going to go ahead and do next is we're going to quickly go ahead and get the lower half of the saucer section attached. And when we do so, I want to secure it using something through this point right here. So it's going to set down inside, and I'm worried about drooping over time. I have seen saucers droop. I've had saucers droop. You got to watch out for saucer droopage with age. Yikes. But I want to go ahead and try to figure out a way to secure it through with like either a screw or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing next. So let's go ahead and move on to getting our saucer section at least partially attached. And real quick before we start building, here's the saucer section, and it has been a while since we've seen this, and man, it turned out really good. Not bad for early on skills. And so together, there's the bottom portion of the saucer section. It's the paint here's a little less than, so. But here is what they look like attached. And, it does look really, really good. And I'm looking forward to seeing this model kind of coming together here in the coming weeks. Like we should be, I think, next week or the next time we come around to this episode. I'm still waiting for my antenna control board to arrive, and it, sometimes things takes forever to ship. So, but we're going to be getting towards finishing up this build, and I'm looking forward to getting the saucer put on. So, let's go ahead and get building. Okay, so this part I've been very much looking forward to for a long time. Now, I alluded to the fact that we are going to be using a rod or a screw or a bolt or something like that to connect up, and we still might, but I didn't wind up doing that because I get distracted. And we'll see that here in a quick second. But yeah, this process was kind of difficult. I'm like, oh man, am I doing something wrong? And then the click, and that also kind of was like, I don't know if I need to really do anything. That's on there. Like it is on there. So, what I had to do is basically come through and run my wiring. Now, obviously, the saucer meets up at the front, and you can see that there's that large open gap in the back. One of the things that I'm going to need to do here, right where I'm drilling,
is do an extra heavy layer of light blocking just to make sure that we don't have any light coming up through there. But basically what I had to do is, because I couldn't run the wires up through, and if I had been thinking during the whole process, of course I would have done things a little bit differently. But with that being said, well, that differently would have been, I would have run the wires up through that channel where we connect up. But instead, I just took, well, I attempted to take one. Yeah, dude, you needed a wider gauge, bro. Like, yeah. So I wound up drilling out 2 holes, one for the positive, one for the negative cable. God, man, I was just like, oh yeah, no, I could fit that. No, no, bro, no, you really can't. You couldn't fit that. So, yeah, wound up drilling out 2 holes, and then we take the wires and run them up through. And it was really that connection, however, like when it snapped into place, like it is a very firm connection. And it got me thinking, like maybe drilling something out is not necessary. And I still might. I attempted to do so, but my, what do you call it? I wasn't able to get a good angle with my pin vise in order to get in there and drill. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know if it's necessary. I did wind up taking a lot of CA and bonding it together. And then over the post, we'll see here in a minute or two, I wound up taking more CA and putting it on top of the post with a bunch of kicker. And it really like sealed in place. So now we have our wires run up through, and it's time for glue. And what's funny is, like, I watched this edit, and I'm like, you just went right after it, dude. Like, but you know, I'm like, oh, I would have been nervous. I should have been nervous, but I wasn't. I just went right after it. And that's what I do. And yeah, it glued well, but because I just went after it, I didn't quite think about what I was doing. So we make this connection, and you'll hear this click. Like I'm pulling up the wires through, but then that click, you hear that click, and oh, man, like you can't move. I still haven't glued the nacelle. I did wind up taking care of that in this episode. The nacelle was still completely unglued. But I wasn't thinking about the full connection, so I wound up having to take a little bit of the CA, running it underneath the saucer where it connects up, and then going ahead and getting it like pushed and pulled and firmly put into place. And so it was this connection that really kind of made me believe that it was not needed. And I'm also kind of like, oh, that looks great. As you can hear in the recording, I'm like, huh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I was very pleased. And this is where I start to get distracted. I'm like, well, what if I put the saucer on top? What if I do that? And then I kind of forget to, do some drilling.
I kind of have to cut in real fast, and I know it's not quite done yet, but let's put some power to it, shall we? I can't help myself. I can't. I can't. This is the best. I am so happy. Like, that looks great. Oh, man. Would you look at that? Holy crap. It's kind of together. Let's look over at this camera here. Yeah, try to get that cinched up a little bit. Get her all in frame, but oh man. Guys, there's most of a ship right there. That's pretty awesome, guys. All right, so let's go ahead and move back on. And very quickly, before we come in for our final thoughts, here's where I took the CA and some kicker, and I very, very simply just piled it on. And it wound up creating a very stable connection, one that I feel confident in going forward. Well, all right, my friends, there it is. And I got to say that, I was a little anxious about this, and I'm not going to put the top on because that would just kind of imply that, hey, we're getting close to being done. But we are, but we're not because we still have a whole lot to do. But this went together a lot better than I thought it was going to. We need to obviously do some paint correction work, but I got to say, getting just that lower part of the saucer section on there really gives this model a sense of life. And I am really excited that we have reached this point. So, in the next episode, when we come back, I'm hoping that we'll have our tenant control board and we're going to go ahead and start getting our wiring for our lighting done. We will talk about what we're going to be lighting and what we're going to be doing inside the saucer section. And then we're going to be sealing up the top and getting that all together so that we can move on to getting our final painting done. So let's go ahead and get a nice little view here. Uh, there it is, my friends, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, which I think is pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world wherever you happen to be. And just remember that revenge is a dish best served cold.